Welcome to Rich in Purpose, where success meets impact. In this episode, our host Benji Esquera is joined by Tom Dosch of DMRE, a land brokerage services company with offices in Houston, Dallas, and Austin. Let's listen in.
This is neat. I've only done this sophisticated of a setup like once before for the VA when I had a veterans event that I do annually, and
oh, cool.
We were talking about it, and we went to the VA to go and do it. First time to hear my voice, I think.
It's funny to listen to yourself. Yeah, I don't listen to a ton of my episodes, but my kids love to listen to it, so I'm like, I got to listen to it a little bit. It's cool they want to listen to it.
Yeah, I remember the first time my daughter and my 3 sons, they had heard the episode being played, and they didn't know it was me to begin with, and then all of a sudden they popped up from their phones or whatever they're doing, and
like, it's you.
Is that
cool.
Is that Dad?
Yeah, that's cool.
Welcome to Rich in Purpose. I'm Benji Esquera, host, and with us today is Tom Dosch with DMRE Brokerage Services, and what we're going to go and talk about is his success with DMRE, but then also transition to talk about what impact he and the group has done since finding that success and the why behind it. So we'll go ahead and start off with Tom. Thanks for coming today. Tell me, how did you and your brother start with DMRE?
Yeah, thanks, Benji. Thanks for having me on, and it's a privilege to get to be on. This is fun to be on a podcast to get to talk about the intersection of what I do for a living and then my faith.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm really passionate about. I know that's how we got connected.
Yes.
Mutual friends that feel the same way.
Right.
But yeah, the background on the business is I started my career actually in investment banking.
Okay.
Did that for a short time down in Houston, worked in the oil and gas space, worked for an M&A investment banking company. It was a good firm, and we had some great clients. I just did not enjoy the work.
Yeah.
I think I was a finance grad at Texas A&M, and so that was my background from an education standpoint, but much more relational in my interests. And so being behind a computer all day and doing spreadsheets and looking forward to probably having to go back to school for advanced degrees and things if I wanted to stay in that industry, and long hours, recently married, all that. I decided to get out of that. And my older brother, Tim, was working for a group in Houston that was private at the time. They were part of a network that was one of the largest apartment investment sales groups within real estate. So selling existing apartments. Tim had been hired at a really young age, about 25, to start their first land group, selling land in Houston for development. And he had brought on a partner, David, and they had been doing that for a couple of years. We were just coming out of the great financial crisis. So land business had been tough in Houston, but Houston was coming back from a market standpoint faster than a lot of other markets across the country, just because of actually oil prices were pretty good and there was good population and job growth. And so I had lunch with them, and they said, why don't you think about leaving investment banking and coming over and working with us? And they were both strong believers. They both loved what they did. They had a lot of fun doing it.
Nice.
They were constantly, spending time with other people, talking about land sites, driving by projects they were a part of. It just, to me, it seemed like a really fun job.
Yeah.
And when I compared it to my life of sitting in a cubicle and just grinding on spreadsheets, and my life was much more about everybody in the business I was in was just about the money. It was just, how can I make as much money as I can as fast as I can?
Right.
And Tim and David were doing well, but I just saw a lot more enjoyment in what they were doing. And so I struggled with it a little bit at first because I didn't know if I wanted to work with family. I'd always been told, don't be careful about working with family. And I'm one of 7. So Tim's the oldest. I'm the next boy, but I've got 3 sisters between me and Tim. And so the thought of going working for my older brother was something I think my pride, I struggled with that a little bit. But I talked to my dad about it. He was going through something called the master's program at the time, which is a Christian leadership program.
Right.
And part of that was he had just read a book called StrengthsFinder. And he'd spent some time, with that. And so he gave me that book when I was praying through this and thinking about, is this a decision I want to make? Going from investment banking to real estate was going to be a pay cut at the time for me.
Yeah.
And I was recently married, and my wife had a very entry-level job. So it was like, wow, this is going to be tight doing this. Fortunately, there was just the 2 of us, so it really wasn't that hard. But I read that book, and I really felt like God made it clear to me that it was the right decision and that I wasn't using the strengths that he had given me in my current role.
Yeah.
What I found through StrengthsFinder was very competitive, very people-oriented, and those strengths were just not really getting used in the investment banking space. Maybe the competition a little bit, but not really in the environment that I was in.
Right.
And definitely not the people skills side. And so I made that leap and was really fortunate. I mean, the market in Houston was really strong. I had no idea at the time that I was stepping into a company that just was run by incredible leaders. They were all very godly men that had applied their professional experience of decades towards building this company and then really tried to build back into the rest of us at the company. So all the partners, it was called Apartment Realty Advisors at the time, all the partners were very intentional about us doing things together as a group, like Bible studies on Thursday mornings and having ministries into the office to show us that like life is not just about being a broker and closing deals and getting a commission. Like it's about giving back and being a part of the community. And I got exposed to a lot of organizations that I had no idea that they existed. Ministries like Faith Comes by Hearing, where I was hearing that there's people groups across the world that have no Bible verse in their language, and maybe you can't read because most places where you don't have a Bible verse in your language, you may not have like a written language, and so it's important for it to be auditory. And anyways, was really impacted by that. And during all this time, we had a lot of success just within the business. With the market was hot, Houston was really growing. Houston's an energy capital, so when oil prices are strong, it's good. It's hard when it goes the other way. It did go the other way, but we had a really good run of probably 2012 to 2014 of several years of doing really well. And around the same time, the brokerage we were with decided to sell and became part of Newmark. So Kenneth Fitzgerald was getting into the brokerage business. They went from not really being in the business to purchasing brokerages all across the country and becoming the fourth largest in the world. Right behind CBRE, JLL, and Cushman. And so we decided to make the leap and leave that environment, and just felt like going from more of a regional platform to a global platform and not having the same flexibility in how we were running our business as we did before, just with the leadership being out of New York and it being more difficult for us to make our own decisions around hiring and how we wanted to have the culture in our office and those kind of things. And so we spun off and we started our own brokerage company, DMRE, in 2017. And, we were really thankful in that we've had the full support of the partners that have been at ARA, that they were all kind of in their earn out periods after selling the company, but we're still there. And we helped them hit some hurdles and then we left. And God really blessed us in that our clients really wanted to continue to work with us. We had a really good parting with Newmark, and that we were classified as like good leavers in the way that we left. We tried really hard to over communicate. I think a year before we made before we left, we told the partner, this is our plan. Here's our business plan. We want your advice. We really tried to put those relationships first and do it the right way, which isn't always the way that it's done in our business. But we had a vision that we wanted to grow a brokerage platform beyond Houston into the state of Texas, and really saw the opportunity to open offices in Dallas and Austin, something we hadn't been able to do as part of the bigger group just because they already had representation in those markets. And so it was a 5-year plan to do that. We did it right before COVID. So we did it in about, 2 or 3 years. We opened offices in Austin and Dallas, and then COVID happened. And it was a really interesting time. It set us back initially for a little while. And then I was walking the neighborhood with my wife in Houston, and it was the time when even church wasn't meeting because it was so crazy, and nobody was in the office. And that's really strange for our business. I mean, I don't think I knew how to do like a screen share or a Teams meeting before COVID started. And then we all started learning how to do it.
Right.
And so I remember though praying about it and just thinking, we had 2 young kids. They weren't really in school age yet. We had a lot of friends that lived in the Dallas area, and we started thinking maybe we'd be interested in moving to Dallas. We had just started an office. We had one guy up here in Dallas, and decided to make the move. And it was neat. So there was a church that, because our church wasn't meeting in Houston, we started watching their services on Sundays.
Okay.
And they were up here in Dallas. And so that was kind of part of it. It was like, well, there's a community we could be a part of.
Right.
It feels very natural now.
That's
to be
interesting.
able to do that.
That part of it is interesting to me because when a lot of folks think about taking a job, right? And you think about salary, you think about what are the schools like. Somebody had told me, so what is your church community going to look like if you move, right? And I've never thought about that when I think about a career move, right? But it's like you're saying, it's an important part of the decision to go and take your family, uproot it, go somewhere else. And if you don't think about that faith component of it, you're just kind of winging it, right? But you were intentional about it. Is that something that somebody had mentioned to you, or is that something that just has always been in your head that if I'm going somewhere, I need to have that base?
I think it's come from different places. I think part of it would be I grew up with that.
Okay.
So I mentioned I'm one of 7. My parents were very intentional with how they raised us. My dad was in oil and gas, and so we moved a lot.
Okay.
We would transfer. So I lived in places like Montana and Oklahoma, West Texas, Houston several times.
Yeah.
All these oil towns. But we always were really involved and plugged in at church wherever we would go. And so that was always really important. I remember growing up, it was, Sunday school in the morning. It was Sunday night going to church. It was Wednesday night going to church. I mean, back when that was like how you did it. And
right.
A lot of my friends, that's how I would get to know them, especially because we moved a lot. So it's like I'd meet the kids in the neighborhood. I'd meet kids on the sports teams, and then be able to have my like church friends. And so for me, I knew that my business is relational. I had a lot of clients in Dallas, but my wife would be moving to Dallas. And so it's like, where's she going to meet people? She didn't work. She had stopped working, and she was taking care of our kids. And so I knew that also the type of people I probably wanted her really getting to know and spending time with, being community with, would be at church. Right. That would be her deeper friends that she could get to know. And so part of it was just really important for her too, so that she would have that. I was fortunate. I already had some really good friends, both on the work side that I shared a lot of values with. We're also strong believers. And then my wife and I had done a lot of traveling. We got married right out of college, and we'd done a lot of traveling ministry work. Okay. Just early on. I did the master's program after my dad had, and I talked about it when I switched jobs. Mm-hmm. I did that and graduated from it after 3 years when I was kind of in my mid-20s. Okay. And part of that was stepping out and doing something that we really hadn't done. And so we went to Africa on a mission trip and worked with an organization out there. Okay. We were so impacted by it that I think at first I came back and I was like, I'm ready to move. I'm quitting my job and we're moving. And my wife was like, okay. I was just so drawn to the relationships and the impact that this ministry was doing and these lives being changed. They were discipling these young people in Africa that there's like a whole generation that was gone because of AIDS. And so you're seeing these young people that were like my age there was like nobody the next 2 decades older than them because they'd all died because of AIDS. And just the impact of spending time with them and, trying to really teach them how to be good leaders, all from a biblical worldview, biblical principles. So we took some friends from church. We went back a couple times. Then we got connected through the master's program to a ministry in the Middle East. And so my wife and I went to the Middle East several times and really felt a heart for church planning to the places where people have just never heard the gospel before. And that really just started opening our eyes more and more to how much of a bubble we live in here. Okay. When I was officing in Houston, we got acquired by Newmark and we moved to the office space above Whole Foods, brand new space right on Post Oak. So nice. I remember looking out my window after coming back from Africa. Okay. And I'm like, this is the world that I live in, every day at the office. It's you couldn't make this office any nicer. Right. I'm above Whole Foods. I can walk downstairs and get a smoothie, a coffee, whatever I want. I can walk to all these other restaurants. I'm working with clients that are building these, $1 billion projects all across the market. And it was really eye-opening because what I saw was these people in Africa. We were in a place called Swaziland, which is now Eswatini. They had one of the shortest mortality rates. It was like for a while there, the average lifespan was like 27 because of AIDS. And this was in the last 2 decades. And then really just the poverty because of that was extreme. And so people were living in like dirt floors, grass huts, but they were incredibly joyful. Yeah. That's what was shocking. Like you go meet these people and you'd think that they were the ones that were offering about the Whole Foods, but that's not how the people were acting.
I got the same. I went on a mission trip. The last one I went to El Salvador, and the joy while being in that struggle economically, right, it just seems like a common theme, right? I talked to other people that have gone through mission trips. A guy that I know went to Guatemala, and the same time, and he had the same comment. And a friend of mine had went to El Salvador not that long before me, and he had the same comment. And it's always this idea that with the economic situation being so much worse than what we have over here, how is it that they're able to find that joy?
Yeah.
What do you think on that?
Well, I think we put so much. I think I was probably unintentionally doing this, but thinking, I know intellectually this is wrong, but that if I have more material things, then I'll be happier.
Right.
But then when you spend time with them and you realize like these people that we were meeting that were so joyful, they were really happy because they were being cared for. People were interested in them, their relationships. And it was really coming around the church that we were working with, that they were a part of.
Wow.
And they had, in the areas we were in, there was a lot of poverty. Like I said, there's AIDS that just wreaked havoc, but there's also just a lot of, spiritually dark stuff and difficult things going on, but people have been freed from that.
Yeah.
And so now they're living lives. They're just like, it's a whole new life.
Right.
Even though that didn't mean that they have running water and conveniences that are really nice to have.
Right.
That was huge for me, because I think for my wife and I, we were also at the exact same time going through the master's program. And part of that program is talking about like, what are you called to do? Like, what are you called to do? What is unique about you, your network, your background, your strengths, your passions, and your financial situation. Yeah. And so thinking about from a financial situation, how far just a little bit goes in places like Africa.
Oh yeah.
But then the pursuit of the American dream. And so I remember we read some books at the same time about it, but really realized like, wow, the American dream is like so opposite of true happiness, true fulfillment, true abundant life that we have in Jesus, because it's just so focused around getting everything for ourselves and always needing more and just never being satisfied.
Right.
These people over there didn't really know what the American dream was, but that was what was around us, in our culture, and even in a lot of times when we would go to church and just what we were used to, and just kind of bubble of wealth that we live in a place like Texas, where like everything's new, everything's nice. You have to kind of go across the tracks and very intentionally choose to go outside of your normal, routine to see it. Yeah. And we started seeing it. And around the time we decided to join a church startup, we've been going to a really large church in Houston that had been great, had a really good like young marriage program where we were really mentored. But we started to just feel like, we're doing this stuff overseas. What's the opportunity to do it back in Houston? Yeah. Houston's really diverse. It has tons of different languages spoken, all kinds of refugees. The world has basically come to Houston and Dallas now. And so we were living at the time in the Galleria area, which is a very kind of diverse area in Houston. We were in an apartment, and we joined a church where we knew this pastor that had just started it. And his whole thing was, let's try to reach out to these unchurched. A lot of them are, just moved here, foreign born people that are just interested. They want to know about Christianity. Yeah. They don't know anything about it. A lot of them were coming from like either maybe agnostic or atheist backgrounds, or even like Muslim backgrounds, but really interested in it. And so that was a pretty amazing experience, like going from a mega church to a small church like that, but getting to see that there's these opportunities in our own city. Yeah. Like there's whole apartment complexes and communities in both Dallas and Houston that are going to look a lot like Afghanistan or wherever you go, that they're living here in their culture, and there's good opportunity.
That's like this exact same thing I said to like my Bible group, my church Bible group. We were talking about just going out to all nations and sharing the gospel. But in that specific community, the Indian population is huge, and it's the comment that I made was that, the world is coming here. Exactly what you said. And it doesn't take that much of an effort to go very far to find somebody that is that's new to the culture here, that doesn't know Jesus, right? And why not reach out to them? How hard is it to go and be kind to them and build a relationship? Which takes me to another comment of relationships and the folks that are, in other countries. Conversation I have with folks in terms of joy is this idea that they aren't preoccupied with all the material stuff that we have here.
Yeah.
And so they're focused on relationship, right? And they find their joy in the relationships, or their barometer of having joy or not is based on the relationships that they have with people. And so they need to invest in that, which I feel like Jesus is saying that you have to invest in relationships.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's hard because then, the way that our work days are set up now, we're so busy, so scheduled out. It can be really hard to not see the person you're meeting with as like, well, I've got to get this done. This is some like transaction or something that, I need. They're here for a purpose, obviously. There's a business purpose, but seeing that like that's a person sitting across from you.
Right.
It's way more than just what they're trying to accomplish within real estate.
Yep. And having the meetings since COVID, making digital virtual meetings a lot more easy. It just removes that component of having it in person and actually, seeing this person as a person as opposed to a screen, right? It just becomes more easy to lose that relationship component and just look at it as a transaction. The master's program, how did that translate into 100 times harvest? Is that the right route that I'm taking?
Yeah, no, that's right. And the master's program, and I know we're both alumni, but I could talk about it for a long time. I mean, it had a really big impact. I think from the first session, it's 12 sessions and going through your whole life. I would come home every day and just sit my wife down and like the whole night it'd be like, this is what we did, and I would flip through the pages, and because it was so transformational to me, it just felt like, wow, someone's taken the time to put together a guide for what it could look like to be a strong Christian leader. And to really look at your whole life. And so at the end of the program, the final 12th session is less kind of new material, and it's more, you talk about what you got out of it and what you want to do. And you're kind of challenged, and I was feeling the challenge as I was getting closer to finishing the program. I was feeling the challenge of like, okay, now what am I going to do? Because it's all this incredible knowledge and responsibility. And I really engaged. I read every book. I did all the homework. And I was really trying to get everything I could out of it.
Right.
And so I remember my older brother had done it too, Tim, and then I did it. And then David, so third business partner, did it after me.
Okay.
And so when David finished, I remember we were all having just a breakfast meeting where we were talking about our business, and we were talking about, the future. And we had probably been 6 months into starting our new company.
Okay.
And we just talked about, okay, well, we all finished the master's program now. Like what could we do together? It's more around the purpose side. Like we were all believers. We all were involved with church. We'd all been involved with different organizations. It was kind of cool. We'd all been investing together for a while, but we'd also all been giving to different ministries together. So like Tim would know somebody and he would say, you should meet with this guy. And then David, and then I would, and we'd send an email around and be like, they're trying to do this here. And so then I'll give this or that. And so we were doing all this together, but it was very kind of organic and there was not like structure to it. It made it a little bit hard to plan around it. And also to think like, could we make this more formal and like more impactful if we put a little bit more thought into it, like we do our business,
right,
and had more goals around it. And so I remember we came up with this idea of, we were all really drawn to the parable of the sower, which it's like a pretty core foundational, parable within the master's program. Just the idea of there's good seed, or there's good soil and there's bad soil, and you want to be the good soil. You want to be that fourth soil where God uses you and there's great abundance, just like we would want to see in an investment. Like we were doing all these real estate and private equity investments, and it's like you're only investing if you think there's going to be a good return. And so we thought, why not try to have that same mindset, but from a kingdom standpoint? And I gotten to go to all these different places, and I would meet with people, and they would just kind of be like, that's crazy that you go to the Middle East, and crazy you go to Africa. Kind of like there's something wrong with me. And I was like, my wife and I just love it. It's like instead of going on like a vacation, we just think that that's so incredible. But I know that's not for everybody. So we thought, well, why not just offer up these different opportunities to invest with these organizations, to give to them, but knowing that like we've gone and seen the work, it's incredible. We know the people, I can tell you stories. All of that. And so the idea of 100 times harvest was bringing together a community of other like-minded marketplace people within real estate. So we had a lot of friends in Houston, that were Christians, and even some that weren't Christians, but we knew they would be interested in the work that was being done, even if it was being done by Christian organizations. And so we thought, why not bring these opportunities with these different organizations to our network, and then just try to do more together. And it'll have the kind of dual purpose of our network will get the opportunity to hear the stories, be impacted, and really know like where their money's going. But then also the ministries will be held a little bit more accountable because it's bigger gifts. It's also easier because they're following up with us, and then we're transmitting that story back to our larger donor base. And so we started with a couple projects, everything from like doing, a language with Faith Comes by Hearing, which was a very established organization, to, I think I was telling you when we met not too long ago, we supported an organization that wanted to take stories of people's lives being transformed and film those stories. So that was really cool because it was like just an idea. That's something that we were really passionate about.
Right.
And we got to kind of be on the front lines of helping fund that, make it happen, even coordinating the guy that did the videography and all of that. So
nice.
It was really cool. So we started that in 2018, and we've really tried, as we've grown our company, there's about 40 of us now at DMRE. As we've grown our company, really tried to also just include our people in it too. If they're interested in supporting any of these ministries, causes, there's a lot of organizations that we've been supporting for years, and we have multiple, multi-year projects that we're supporting.
Right.
And then there's other organizations that will support more on like a one-off project basis. And, it's been a lot of fun to get to do it in the community of my partnership, but then also getting to do it with other employees and seeing what people are passionate about. People are passionate about different causes. And our main thing is we want to see the kingdom of God grown, and we really want to try to really move the needle and push progress in whatever the cause is. And so we're trying to work with organizations that are doing a really good job of, keeping their costs in control, have a very strategic vision. We've, in a lot of cases, just connected organizations because there's almost more than money. Sometimes they just need to be connected with the right organization or less duplication happening and kind of working on things together and collaborating.
Nice. So a question that I had coming up in my head while you're putting that together was, it's a theme throughout. I connect the dots in my head as to where God's been moving, but I'm turning it around to you just specifically. What would you say is a time that you saw where God was literally moving? You just can say, I didn't do any of that.
Yeah. It's hard to talk about any of this and feel like, it's just to think, I was homeschooled my whole upbringing. And so
I remember you told me.
I feel like, I don't think I didn't know what I wanted to do professionally. Again, I did finance because it was like, that's probably a good major, to be a finance major. And I really had no interest in investment banking, but it was just a good job offer that I got, it's just like God has orchestrated so many things in my life. And so it's hard to pick one because it's like just my parents and what they sacrificed homeschooling all of us. The main reason they did it was neither of them was homeschooled. It wasn't popular at the time they did it.
Yeah.
But it was like, we want you to have a biblical understanding of the world and of like the history of the world. And so my education growing up was so incredible now that I kind of back up and talk to others about like what their education was like and just what I got to learn about God and about how God has worked throughout history and how he then worked in the life of our family. And we moved around a lot, but he always had like a purpose in where he took us. Yeah. And the people we've met, like we started an investment company back in 2021, and most of our investors are based out of Midland, which is where I was born. And they're like 4-decade now friends of my parents. Wow. And we lived there for a year, but they're from church, and the people we met at church and incredible people, strong believers. We share values in the way we look at the world, but like that was just a stop on, this track. But like God's blessed me so much with my wife. We have 5 kids, just the alignment there with her. There's no way any of the business success would be possible if we weren't aligned in our marriage. And he's blessed me so much there. Even just her willingness to go to Africa and then go to the Middle East. And my first went to Africa, she was really nervous. And then next thing I know, she's in Jordan, we're like working with refugees and, and bombed out areas and stuff. And so just to see how God has worked in my marriage, how he works in our lives now, just as parents, which is constantly a challenge to just seeking the Lord and how to be a good parent, and it's hard, but, there's like not, to me, it's, I guess you could say it's kind of like an underdog story. It's just like, I grew up all over the place. Yeah. I went to a big state university, but I've had so much kind of like worldly success very rapidly. But then what's more amazing to me is that he planted the master's program when I was like 25. Yeah. And I got to meet guys like Jeff Gerhardt and Bob Shank and all these really incredible Christian leaders that are recognized as leaders like across the entire country, and I've gotten to spend time with them and mentored by them, and just a part of some really special organizations and some special movements of God, like seeing the time we're living in where we are going to see, I think, scripture both, translated and recorded into every language for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And then also every people group reached for the first time ever. And so,
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick one time, because really I think God has just been at work.
Yeah.
Constantly.
That's what I was thinking after hearing. We talked during lunch, and it's the same theme in my head, was that God's hand seemed to be on every component that you shared with me, from the time that you were at homeschool until now. So that's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. We're coming up on time here, and I wanted to ask you this. Probably in the beginning would have made more sense in terms of the continuity of all this, but it's an aside comment, because I saw some of your posts with a shoe or sandal.
Yes, yeah.
Are you a runner?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
I love running, yeah.
So are you, I'm guessing you're a minimalist when you run.
I normally am, yeah. So I've gotten into ultra running, like trail running, the last couple of years.
Okay.
So I have a good friend. He actually runs a ministry that lives in Frisco.
Okay.
And so he got me into it, and we did a run together, and then he's never done another one, which I thought was funny. So hopefully he will join me again. But I've gotten into it where I haven't done like 100-miler, but the furthest I've done is 52 miles. Trail run out at Possum Kingdom. But then I've done several 50Ks, which is about 32 miles or so. Now, I don't normally run in those sandals for that distance.
Yeah.
Those are hiking sandals.
Yeah.
And I was with our team recently on a leadership retreat in Utah, and whenever I hike in those sandals, people just think I'm crazy that they're flip-flops, but it's like, no, these are actual hiking sandals.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty neat. I run minimalist. I don't go, the longest I've run was half marathon with water shoes. That's kind of
cool, yeah.
That's kind of what I use now, because they're cheaper alternatives than an actual minimalist shoe, and it's the same material, I guess, or they last just as long. But I saw these socks that are being marketed as running or trail running shoes. I don't know if you heard of those.
I remember the web shoes that seem like socks, but I haven't seen these new ones.
These look like socks, and they have the toes that you put on. I mean, it's individual toes that go around. And I guess they've got a bottom that's, my head thought Teflon, but it's some other material that's supposed to help you when you're running so you don't get cut, especially if you're trail, on a trail. But it made me think of you. Well, I saw it, and then I saw your post, and I thought, whoa, I wonder if you use that or not. Maybe
I'll have to check them out. I do run in toe socks on those long runs, because it's just better. Blisters and foot care is critical, especially this one I do in Possum Kingdoms in May. Yeah. So it's been in the 90s the last couple of years. So running 52 miles in the 90s, it's so, you're so beat up by the end.
Yeah, I can imagine. I did half marathons, and I did a half marathon that was combined with a marathon. I guess we were all running the same course.
Okay, yeah.
And then there was a left turn for the marathoners, right turn for the half marathoners. And I made my right turn, and I saw the other guy next to me turn left, and I looked, and I said, I'm never doing that. Never. The way I feel right now, about to finish my race, and I have to do another one, that's not going to happen.
Well, they always say the last mile is the hardest. Whenever you know you're close to the end, it's hard no matter, because normally on the long runs, mile 20 would be really hard on a 30-mile run, but on a 50-mile run, mile 20 is like you're just getting going. So.
Right. I cannot have that in my head. I don't think I can wrap my head around that.
Well, I love running. I think my family always ran, and we were always very active. And I like listening to audiobooks or listening to sermons or podcasts. Yeah. And so running's really enjoyable because I can really, get a lot of time in, which is nice. And with 5 young kids, I don't really have time to sit and read anymore. But if I get up early, get out the door and, listen and run, it's pretty enjoyable.
Yeah. I do the same thing with sermons on the run. And doing, one time I was thinking I was going to stop running and start doing maybe some kind of aerobic type of workout. Use that time to do that because I thought the exercise was the running was hurting my body. Yeah. And then when I did the calisthenic type of workout, I stopped listening to the sermons because I was trying to pay attention to the guy that was telling me what to do. Right. Yeah. And then I started realizing, now I don't have that time of listening to sermons, and I really look forward to that time of being with, listening to God's word, trying to interpret and learn. Yeah. So I figured, okay, I'm going to go back to running.
Yeah, it's funny. I have the same way. People are like, how do you like running? But actually, I look forward to it. It's just, it's enjoyable. And I've tried, I like to just research too, like trends in health and things. And so I've been trying to be better. Same thing about like, I want to be in good shape and healthy when I'm older. So I don't want to beat myself up too hard. So I've been changing my training a little bit and doing more, hiking and walking and weighted vests and stuff. And
I think you guys had a podcast
we
recently.
did.
I listened to that one. That was pretty interesting. I didn't drink any coffee this morning because of it.
Really? Okay. Well, I did. But, but it's over caffeinating. That's the problem. So you can still have some.
I figured I was just going to go and take a break from it. But I think you guys had said something about drinking caffeine maybe around lunchtime as opposed to first thing in the morning, something along those lines.
Yeah, I think that
take a break.
They say it's good, to let your body naturally wake up for like the first 90 minutes and then before, because a lot of people just get right out of bed and have coffee and just messes up your kind of the rhythm that God it's created. It's cool. Everything about, that is in the master's program. That was a big part of that was getting your foundation secure before you just go try to do a bunch of things. Because you see these guys that, they don't have their foundation secure in their relationship with the Lord or their health or whatever it is. And so then they kind of crash and burn because of something. And so that was really spoke to me too, just as being really young and going through it and thinking about, you don't see very many people finish strong.
Right.
It's sad. Like even within the Christian community and space, you hear about pastor after pastor, something happening. And so the importance, I think that's a big thing about following the Lord is like, we don't have it all figured out. We're still sinners. We're going to make mistakes. And like the importance of being humble before the Lord, because ultimately a lot of these guys that have had these kind of like crash and burns, they were, considered just like incredible men, but none of us are incredible men. It's only because of the work that Jesus did.
This concludes this episode of Rich in Purpose, where success meets impact. Thank you for listening.